spending priorities and policy goals that will guide the national government and county governments in the formulation of their budget for this particular oncoming financial year and over the medium term has clearly been spelled out in this year's draft budget policy statement, the first one for President William Ruto. Now therein, let's look at some of the winners and losers. In our first edition, we looked at the winners therein. So today, how about we shed light on the losers in there? My name is Richard Mwenja. Welcome to Business Glide, the only name in matters business and economics. And with me is renowned East African public scholar Herman Manyora. Great to see you, sir.
How are you?
I'm quite well. How about you?
I'm wonderful.
Quite a good week. We are seeing your friend Wafula Chebukati has been fronted as one of the potential people to take over as EACC chairperson.
He's the most qualified.
Really?
Yes.
You're the same person barely a week ago. You said Chebukati is simply the worst. Now you're saying he's the best person for that position?
No, you know, this country, when people perform so badly, we put them up. When people steal so much, we make them governors and bigger things. So I'm just saying he's the most suitable. Having messed our elections, he can now be a good person to take care of EACC.
Graft in this country.
Yeah.
Taking over the other bishop that was there.
Yes.
All right, we wish him fair winds. Should he actually be appointed? That's just word that is in the streets. Many people in the political class are actually fronting him for that position.
We support him.
Let's delve into today's conversation, and it's a continuation of our coverage on the draft budget policy statement. And among the key things that probably will disappoint many Kenyans therein is the issue of the taxman making a commitment to snoop on the mobile phone transactions of many Kenyans just so to curb tax cheats therein. This, of course, is in line with the government's commitment to ramp up their revenue collection. From a general perspective, what do you make of KRA using such conduits to just get an extra coin to their bucket?
KRA are jokers. One day they harassed me and many others. When they see Manyora has 4 Kenya Power accounts or 5, they think those are businesses. They don't even know you can have a home here, a home in the village, and maybe another one in Kitale, where you have 2 points of land, not a lot of land. So now they are going to this M-Pesa. You remember even Kenya Power tried to go to the M-Pesa accounts of their employees.
True.
This is cheapness. For example, who tells you every money that hits my account is my money?
It could just be a conduit?
I can just be a teacher and you send me money to give your mother in the home, in the village. I could be the principal of a school, you send me money
as pocket
to
money.
give your child as pocket money. I mean, do you need to have a brain to see that's a very cheap way? Actually, just a stupid way of thinking.
But remember, this is the same taxman that has been loaded by the previous president and also the current one. Because if you look at their collection within the last quarter of the operations,
yes,
it was very, very much commendable. Don't you think these are just part of the austerity measures that should be undertaken whether the audience likes it or not?
Why are you going to look for where you can't get money, where there's a lot of controversy? I learned long time ago, tax administration must be as simple as possible, as straightforward as possible.
How so?
It must be simple, straightforward, understandable by all, the taxman and the taxpayer. It must not cost a lot of money. It must be cost efficient. All those basic things we teach students in Form 2. Why come somebody in charge of KRA and doesn't know? Then, more importantly is, there's so much in terms of low-lying fruits. I've asked the KRA, and if anybody listening, go and tell them. Invite me on a 2-hour talk. I show you how you can move your collection from just about 2 trillion to 4, 5 trillion, 6 trillion.
In one financial year?
Yeah. Let them call me. I'm here. I'm not a small boy. I'm a public figure. People know me. Let the KRA call me. Give me their top officers and the press. They come there in a boardroom. I address them. I show them. I've challenged them many times, not through even their own senior officers, very senior officers, commission. I told them, look here, just call me one morning, 9 to 11. I'll show you how you can move 2 million to 4 million without harassing anybody. In fact, the first thing I'll tell them, let the highest tax in this country be 20%.
20%?
Yeah. 15 to 20%. Let people just pay 5, 8, 10. 5, 8. Everybody will want to pay taxes.
But we are looking at ways on how we can actually meet the budget deficit within the shortest time possible. Don't you think for the current time?
Why are you rushing to meet the budget deficit and you are creating the same deficit? I have said repeatedly, in a 3 trillion budget in this country, actually what is required in that budget cannot be 50%. Over 1.5, okay, now because of our debt, because of our foreign debt, you could be talking about 500 to 600 billion that need not be in that budget. So just remove that. Then there's no deficit.
Could that then be what we call budgeted corruption?
Of course, padding is called budget padding.
Budget padding.
You put money where you can easily follow to eat it. For example, who needs dams in this country? It's a conduit for corruption. You put billions in dams. None of them has ever worked. You don't need the dams. First of all, who tells you a dam must cost 60 billion? You cannot take a dam where a dam should not be. A dam must be a place where God has said a dam can be here. It's just blocking one side and water filling it.
But this is the same particular budget that...
Not trying to get some temporal land and trying to create a dam there. You must be a stupid man. So, this budget has like 500-600 billion that if you take it to Nairobi primary school, class 8, 7 children, they will flag out items that need not be in the budget. Primary school children will tell you, na hii inafanya nini kwa budget?
It's okay.
Hii inafanya nini kwa budget?
For MCS.
You have no money, and yet you are putting all these manner of things. Water harvesting, so what for counties. 44 billion.
Meteorological department.
This budget, now, forced through, I think, supplement or whatever it is, because it's unconstitutional. Declared by the Supreme Court. CDF is unconstitutional. By advice of the AG, 44 billion. Then you come around and say there's a budget deficit for which you must harass Kenyans to pay tax, to finance things like CDF.
In this particular year's draft...
To police members of parliament.
Who are elected by the people.
There's nothing CDF is doing. If it's a question of schools, government must budget for schools.
Laboratories, everything.
Yeah, if that development, if it is a question of bursaries, government must move towards free education. We look for funds to make education free. Before we get there, government must provide scholarships and bursaries. So an MP has no role in anything like that. 44 billion. Anza na hiyo toa. Then move. There are so many useless things in the budget. Useless. They have no purpose of being there. Projects that we have been at for the last 20, 30 years. None of them have seen light.
The light of day.
Kata hiyo toa ndani ya budget.
Then again,
I saw sometimes centers of excellence or stimulus package, 20 billion for markets. You have many million for market.
Bailing out KQ.
Those markets, have you seen what they look like? You can laugh. A good number are not complete. Others are like here.
Or bus terminus.
Bus terminus.
Then again,
this is just this is what foolish people do. And we must stop this idea of being foolish. This country is not at a place where it can deal with a budget deficit. So we have enough time to improve on our tax revenue. There's no emergency. Just remove the things that are causing the deficit. Remove them. Then you remain with a budget you can manage with the current revenue as you work on improving revenue by doubling it in the next 2, 3, 4 years.
In the draft budget policy statement, just in an attempt to fix these particular loopholes that you're talking about,
yes,
we've seen the government has cast the net wider, yes, just so to collect about 2.8 trillion Kenya shillings, yes, from the informal businesses. This is where actually the people who call themselves the hustler nation are domiciled at, getting livelihoods from therein. You've criticized the government and said already people in the Juakali sector are bearing the brand of COVID and also expensive short-term loans and many factors therein. Do you think KRA, through many other taxes therein, going to collect 2.8 trillion from Juakali sector is actually adding thorn to the flesh?
First of all, it is politically unwise.
How so?
It is morally wrong. You cannot get suffering Kenyans and want money from them. You cannot go chase after. You know, that reminds me of the old county council. Chasing Mama Mbogas all over. When they appear on a market, everybody runs helter-skelter. People can even hit you running away from those kanjos, askaris, because of 20 shillings. You can't go back there. So it is immoral. It is politically unwise. Yet, we all know the Jokal sector employs over 80% of people.
Absolutely.
It creates over 80% of what we call income in this country. So what you need to do, and it's part of what I will explain to KRI, is to formalize the informal sector. If you are tempted to formalize the informal sector in this country, even if you just did 30%, by the time you get to 30% formalizing the informal sector, the taxman will just be smiling. And the same Kenyans in those sectors will be smiling. Because it's not a question of forcing them to pay tax. It's a question of growing them, building them, facilitating them, supporting them to become better businessmen. And thereafter, benefit from being smart businessmen. Benefit from knowing the beauty of an account, having an account in a bank, transacting through a bank account. The beauty of keeping your books.
Financial discipline.
You know where you are going, you know where you are coming, and now you can even get a loan. Now, once you have trained them like this, there are people who will happily pay you taxes. Again, the taxes will not be these abnormal taxes. 5%, 3%, 4% of the informal sector, you pay 10%. On the way to that, to train these people, KRA can employ hundreds of thousands of people to go across the country, teaching people in informal sector how to create groups, how to do books, how to do banking, how to benefit from loans and government schemes of monies.
And in return, they will voluntarily
And in a
pay the
year's
taxes.
time, they will be happy to stand on the table and government is seeing them. Because now they are operating under the table. They will be on the table, government will see them, they will be happy to pay taxes. This is simple. I can share this simple information with them.
We wait to see how that will unravel in the fullness of time. But then again, in the interest of time, what do you make of the government's suspension in the draft policy of subsidies on food, fuel and electricity? Because that is actually part of the advisory that they were given by international lenders, and the government is actually walking the talk therein. What do you make of that? Because there is a cost of living that is actually rising, but on the other hand, we've seen there's a proposed suspension of these particular subsidies.
I say it points the moral direction and the political direction. It may not be politically wise to have a hungry population. It's not politically wise for a president to lead a population of hungry people.
Starving stomach.
It is immoral to be president of a country where people go to bed hungry as a few people overfeed. It's immoral. It's almost criminal. So subsidies are not entered into because people love them. So don't listen to IMF. Look at your situation. In any case, I don't support subsidies myself. Because like I say, before you go for big things, why don't you start with a small thing? The so-called low-hanging fruits here, there they are.
Which in this context,
why would you want to subsidize Kenya power, electricity?
Energy, yeah.
And there's so much wastage there. There's so much theft going on in Kenya power. So much wastage. Why do you want to subsidize electricity? Start by stopping the theft.
and making use of all carrier plant and all those.
Ketraco and the rest of those people. Power generation, power distribution. There's so much. That's where corruption resides. Ukitaka corruption unaenda kutafuta wapi? Kwa energy sector. So before you talk of subsidy, look, what can you do to make electricity affordable? After you have done that and you still need to subsidize, do so, ignore IMF. Because when you are at home, the IMF will not help you. They will deal with the next president. Start another round of cheating him. So do what's good for your country. But certainly I don't support subsidies because they're always abused. Okay? Even in the energy sector, in the fuels. Why would you want to subsidize fuel?
Probably
when there's so much government can do to reduce the price of oil. Why is it cheaper in Ethiopia?
Just across the border.
Yeah, kwani wanatoa yao wapi?
And they don't have wells there in.
Hata hawana coastline. Does Ethiopia have a coastline?
Not really. No, actually not.
So, why will oil be cheaper there than Kenya?
Indeed.
Because we load on a liter of petrol so many government taxes and levies, which some of them we can remove, and the price will go down. So by the time you are talking of subsidy, you have tried your best. So this government is not serious. Government is never serious. All these governments are not made of people who are serious. And that's why, because they are not serious and they don't care about the citizens of the country, it's easy for IMF and World Bank to play with them. Otherwise, a serious man like me, I'll tell them, go away. Leave us alone. Come back here with respect. We shall tell you what programs you want to work on and cooperate on. La hii ya subsidy wachia mimi na watu yangu. Kenyans will not go to bed hungry. If there's something government can do, government will do it.
Interesting that Herman Manyora says it can stop the roaring tigers that are IMF, World Bank. We wait to see. That time will particularly come probably when he'll be elected the president of Kenya. We cannot really tell, but he has presidential ambitions in him. Time now for a fan of the week. It is none other than Peter Manyora, our top fan from us from day. He has been with us from day one, been watching all our conversations, and this particular 1 month he has been our top fan who's actually been sending the most feedback from our audience. Peter Manyora.
Peter Manyora, thank you very much for being with us all
through. From day one.
And we encourage you to continue being with us and telling others to join the family.
Asalimia watu wa Saudi Arabia.
Now, he's in Saudi?
Yeah.
Peter Manyora, hang in there. Greet Kenyans there. Tough, the world is tough. Bear the toughness so long as you are not being turned into something like a slave.
All right, until next time on Business Glide, my name is Richard Mwenja. Always a pleasure. Up next on your screen is the Business Glide African proverb of the day.